moving further. Well, I use this as a strategy to say a lot to the eyes and the minds of someone who is truly holistic, total, and with a Renaissance vision. I'm reminded of this quote from Marcel Proust, who said, "Each one of us is similar and dissimilar to each one of us, as many as there are eyes and minds that go in everybody." Each one of us is similar and dissimilar to each one of us, as many as there are eyes and minds that awaken every morning. The role of a creator is to provide an image of it, because our observations are not mere passive record. So in other words, who is a true creator? Someone who engages with life, who draws from life and enriches life. And what is true creativity? Is it truly replication of reality? Or is it about understanding from life and creating something that does not exist through the essences and nuances that one has gathered from this experience? Then what is skill? Or what is replication of reality? Replication of reality merely amounts to the technicality of the skill that is physically observed from your being. Would that be art? Or should it be art? Or should art truly be an appropriate skill for an appropriate sense? An appropriate sense that emanates from a larger understanding of life, its essence, and using the right kind of skill for it. That's the precise reason why Tagore started painting at the ripe age of 60 plus, when you realized that the image has the capacity to go down to those recesses of your existence which are not accessible to common logic, but are only accessible to instinct and intuition, and can say far beyond what the word can. The word is analogous of the experience, but the image is closest to the experience. One simple reason why I again quote another man that I truly admire, Salvador Dali, last century's greatest showman. Art is what flows from the mind, through the hands, through the tip of the brush, onto the canvas. I again repeat. Art is what flows from the mind, through the hands, through the tip of the brush, and onto the canvas. And love is the same thing. Isn't it? So, expression, dancer, जब तक एकाग्रता के साथ उस एक्सप्रेशन को अपने शरीर में, मन मस्तिष्क में, अपनी ज्ञान इंद्रियों में ढाल न ले, अभिनय कैसे संभव होगा? वही शब्द हैं, कभी जर्नलिज्म बन जाते हैं, कभी लेटर बन जाते हैं, लेकिन कभी पोएट्री it's that articulation, that holistic articulation of your experience that comes from life, comes from the experiences of life, and comes from the translation of life, not replication. तुम क्या चाहती हो? एकेडमिक भाषण चाहती हो या बात करो? बोला बात कीजिए, बात करनी है। और मैंने सोचा कि ये सब चीजें मैं अगर टैगोर के बारे में कहूँगा कि एसेंस के बारे में कहूँगा तो मुझे विश्वास नहीं करेंगे, इसलिए वो दिखा दो। कॉन्टेक्स्ट पक्का सेट हो जाएगा, जिसके आधार पे मैं, जिसकी आड़ में मैं बहुत कुछ कह पाऊंगा। तो coming back to Salvador Dali, art is what flows from the mind, through the hands, through the tip of the brush, onto the canvas, and love is simple. जाकी रही भावना जैसी, वो देखी मूर्त कितनी तैसी पर भावना, वो भावना कहाँ से उत्पन्न होगी? So the experience of life, experiencing life, the essence of life, how do you? है ना? यम नियम आसन प्राणायाम प्रत्यय ध्यान धारणा समाधि, योगा, please include an element of yoga. So samadhi, is samadhi a silent state of existence or is it the most energized state of existence? It's not about being still, it's about being most active, most energized, most vital, most pulsating. So I'm reminded of so many people. I don't quite remember whom all I want to talk. I have these two personal statements of mine. I'm making my premise of dialogue. That's why I say, let's see how long I last. When she said 45 minutes, I said I'll try that. Two favorite statements of mine. Fantasy is the basis of all hypotheses, as much applicable to science as it is to art, because creativity is the common denominator for you. I asked you, what do you teach? You said, you're part of education. So should education be holistic, total, integrative, learning from a much more experiential platform rather than segregate? Fine, segregation is not specialization, as long as you don't have larger understanding of it. And I firmly believe that fantasy is all hypotheses as much applicable to science as it is to art, and I shall now, through my smaller experiences and stories, which include Zen stories as well, illustrate my point. My dentist is an extremely well-known dentist. His name is Dr. Siddhartha. This story, my doctor also knows that I must have shared innumerable designs all over. This was the College of Art. I was an associate professor. I was having my breakfast and bit into my toast in the morning, and I had excruciating pain because my molar was impacted molar, which had a cavity, which I knew of. And excruciating pain. I went. I picked up the phone. My wife said, please call the doctor. So I called the doctor. I said, doctor, I'm in excruciating pain. He said, can you describe the pain? Can you describe the pain? He said, yes. I can. He said, please do. I said, it comes with every heartbeat. Book, book, book. My friend, this is an exposed nerve. Okay, have a proxy bond. Proxy bond is now banned. Please have a proxy bond and come back and see me at my last appointment, which is at 12:30. So I go at 12:30. 4 times, they did every time of supper. No one in the clinic. Only he and me. A doctor, अगर अच्छा डॉक्टर डॉक्टर पोलाइट बात करता है, अच्छी बात करता है, आधा दर्द वही कम हो जाता है। Experience. So he gives me a shot, and then he has to wait. He's making polite conversation with me. He said, "How wonderful, Rajiv, with people like you who are always engaged in the artistic world. And how horrible with people like us. We have to put our fingers into other people's mouth for a living." So I'm going numb. I'm going numb. And I can barely talk. So I paused for a moment and I said, "But doctor, I see no difference between you and me." He paused. How? "Doctor, we work with inanimate material to instill life into it. You work with animated material, real flesh and real blood. What's the difference? Aren't you not an artist?" First, I never thought of it like that. I said, "My friend, you are a miniature sculptor. You work with real flesh and real blood to sustain life." His relationship with me till date revolves around when I go to him, which I have to go. First 20 minutes is only conversation. Because we vibe. तादात्मा, तदात्मा, तदात्मा को पहचानेंगे कैसे? Atma is this Atma or the inner vitalized spirit that facilitates the creative process. So, is there a difference between an artist? And unfortunately, whichever school I go to, my first statement is, the unfortunate thing is that you think that the good ones go to science, the bad ones need to go to art. How unfortunate. This has to go. Because the next thing, ideas can be hypothetical, but they need to be governed by their own logic to formulate their own meaning. Does a poet not hypothesize like an scientist? Then what does he do? He works an entire strategy to ensure that he comes closer to that tadatma, experiential matter, or that abstract experience that exists. So what should ideally be the role of education? It's a question that I'm not going to answer. It's a question that I have raised myself and have been trying to answer all along. That is education about real life, my subject. Creative expression and its essence in real life. And coming back to everyday life. Whenever I take a class, my first statement with my students has been, "Your mother cooks gobi butter, so did mine." And in today's time, it's quite possible that they land up buying the vegetables from the same set of stores, thanks to the advertising world, and almost using the same set of spices and the same heart-friendly oil. But may I ask you, why is it that your mother's gobi butter, in spite of the same ingredients, so tastes so different from mine? I'm sure there's something extremely serious to it. Let's try and find that with if we are able to decipher those nuances that enable us to decipher and distinguish the creation of taste. Perhaps. संस्कृत में रस थ्योरी भाव विभाव अनुभाव व्यभिचारी संयोगात रस निष्पत्ति। भाव विभाव अनुभाव और व्यभिचारी भाव इसके संयोग से रस की निष्पत्ति संभव है। अभी एक और सवाल सबके सामने प्रेषित करूंगा, आंसर नहीं चाहूंगा क्योंकि मैं क्या कारण है कि एस्थेटिक्स डांसर पे भी लागू है, पोएटिक्स पे भी लागू है, लिटरेचर में भी लागू है और आर्ट में भी लागू है। कोई तो ऐसा तत्व होगा जो उन सबको बांधता हो। हमारा प्रयास उसको समझने का क्यों नहीं है? होना चाहिए। अब I take you another. I'm only touching snippets because I have decided that I can't answer or I can't पेश करो or what I want to. So I've already banked on something. I will place a few ideas in front of you for you to choose and pick up what you want and delve into it as per your own opinions and tell you some Zen stories and finish off. I think I'm very fond of Zen stories. Now, may I ask you one simple question, which I don't want an answer, but I will. That how many hundred years did it take for the first image of Buddha to evolve? Does someone have an answer? But I will give you one. Perhaps almost 500 years. Why? And until that time, how was he being represented? He was represented only symbolically. Empty throne, white horse, white elephant, padukai, symbolically. And what were the aestheticians doing in those 500 years? They were actually creating a complete iconic order, which is called Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, and this way section which is called Chitra Sutra, the evolution of the iconographic structure of how we should be. I will cite 4 examples from poetry to give you the cross reference. We have learned in Indian poetry, Jani Anani Anand Akhand Ached Abhed Suved Batave ताकि अहीर की चौहरियां छचिया पर छाछ पे नाचना चाहते हैं। इमेजिन कीजिए कौन सी इमेज बनेगी? क्या इमेज बनेगी? क्या ये रियलिस्टिक इमेज है? क्या ये रेप्लिकेशन ऑफ रियलिटी है या ये कंसीव्ड रियलिटी है या ये कॉन्सेप्चुअल रियलिटी है? शब्द इमेज। So actually 500 years went truly into conceptualizing what should be the idealized conceptual image of Buddha to be. How should he look like? Maryada Purushottam ya Maryada Viruttam. What should his iconography be? Nose, eyes, symbolic, ears, Vakshastha, hands, that eight element. What should be the lips like? So this is the point I'm trying to raise is this cross, pollination between our aesthetical creation and expression and its conceptualization. With this, I jump to another extremely powerful shloka and describe that. That's the most important. I think I've systematically brought you to a point that I'm able to talk about iconography. Can I have it before? But बोलने की आदत कब हो गई है? So coming back to, it's called Shadal. fundamental qualities of what approach. But before I tell you this, I go to another story from our Shastras. Here was this king who wanted to learn music. So he called him this musician and said, Master, I want to learn music. So the musician asked the master, the king, why is it that you wish to learn music? He said, I want to understand the musical spirit and its relationship to life. Perhaps my administrative skills shall get better. What a wonderful thought! What do you think that you wish to understand music? Can you understand that without understanding the concept of rhythm? Where does the concept of rhythm? But please settle down. I don't usually like people coming in and going out. Either close the door or you come in or you go out. I get very distracted. या तो अंदर आ जाइए क्योंकि मैं कहानी कभी सुनाऊंगा जब दरवाजा बंद हो जाएगा जस्ट क्लोज कर दो जो अंदर है वो अंदर है जो बाहर है वो बाहर very distracting this is content okay coming back so here was this king who wanted to learn music he called this musician and said I want to learn music how wonderful you want to learn music perhaps the musical spirit and its understanding shall enable me to be administratively better. But sire, I have a question to ask. What's that? Can you understand the musical spirit without understanding the concept of rhythm? Well, that's true. I can't understand musical order if you understand this. Then what do I do? So first learn. Yeah. Concept of rhythm. Call the best dancer. You got the best dancer, right? The sire said the same thing. I need to understand music and therefore I was asked to understand this. He said, Sire, I have another question to ask you. Can you understand dance until and unless you understand form? So where does form lie? Form lies in sculpture. So first learn sculpture. So he calls the best sculptor. But as sculptor arrives and he says, tells the whole story again, he said, my God, you've got a great set of teachers. But sire, I have a question to ask you. Can you understand the concept of form unless and until you understand the concept of time and space? Where does the concept of time and space lie? Don't you think it's more in architectural elements? So I won't go through the entire set of stories, but I will go. And in this course, it goes through this entire cycle of 64 art forms, Joseph, and I come back to music. This means this is the real true meaning of the word holistic. I'm sure I've managed to give you a glimpse of what is the aesthetical sensibility or the order that governs the process of creation. As much applicable to science as it is to art. And ideas can be hypothetical, they need to be governed by their own logic to formulate their own meaning, and only then will something unique which is worthy of being called a work of art will emanate, and replication will not, because it is only an imitation of reality. My real story is still there. Now, Rupabhedāna Pramanāni Bhāva Lavanya Yojana Sadrishya Varneka Iti Chitram Sharanaka Iti Chitram Iti Chitram, does it mean painting? No. It means a work of art. means a creation. Any creation requires these 6 fundamental principles to be understood and utilized. What are those? Rupa Veda, रूप के भेद, physical understanding of variety of form. Only then रूप के भेद will enable you to understand the Swarup which is here conceptually there. I understand? Why 500 years to take to create the variety of form. Pramanani. The utilization of Rupa Veda in its appropriate proportion. Just because देसी में मिठाई बहुत अच्छी बनती है तो मतलब ये नहीं है 1.5 लीटर डाल। Unlike आजकल के मिठाई वाले जो हर चीज में केसर डालते हैं और 200 रुपये बढ़ा देते हैं। Another story, within the story. मुझे ना क्रिएटिव लोगों से गप्पे मारने का बड़ा शौक। मैं फोटो खींच रहा था जामा मस्जिद के पीछे। आजकल ये मूर्ति बड़ी मुश्किल से मिलती है तो केवल शाम को जैसे जगह जामा मस्जिद के पीछे एक ही मूर्ति वाला खाली मूर्ति बना। मैं जा रहा था फोटो खींचते हुए उधर के गया चचाई की मूर्ति निकाल एक ना बनाऊंगा तो मैंने कहा बड़ी रखी है ये भी ना खाऊंगा क्यों वो उसमें वो बड़ा हो चुकी है मुझे चाहिए ना जो पैसे दोगे वो मैं दूंगा लेकिन खाऊंगा एक पाजी मेरे शौकीन नहीं शौकीन विमलन कर गए ना अंदर पहुंच गए ना फिर उसने मुझे बताया कैसे राम को मुझे तो ये उसने स्टेटमेंट बोला है ना मैं आज कभी भूलना कहता है आजकल क्या है दूध फाड़ो पनीर बनाओ केसर जोड़ो और पाकीज़ा बोलो It comes from an experience of life. ये जो है ना ये जो टेस्ट जो है ना वो ऐसा सॉफ्ट भी होना चाहिए, क्रिस्पी होना चाहिए, जूसी भी होना चाहिए, ऐसा भी होना चाहिए, है ना? आप समझे उसने इतने दिल से मुझे एक ही मूर्ति बना के खिलाई, तेरा पैसे मांगूंगा। आज मैं अपने डॉक्टर को याद करता हूँ, ये मूर्ति वाले को उसने मुझे सिखाया क्या वो ट्रांसफ्यूजन हो सकता है क्या कंप्यूटर से ट्रांसमिट हो सकता है क्या एआई पहुंच सकती है जहां न जाए रवि वहां जाए तो उद्देश्य क्या है हम सब और क्यों मुझे बेनाटॉन पहनना है क्योंकि उसे पहना है क्यों मुझे गुच्ची का बैग होता ना गुच्ची का तो लेके घूमना है क्यों मुझे ये नहीं समझना है कि मुझ पर क्या सीख करना है जय सीखना है मलिक मोहम्मद मैं भूल जाऊंगा मलिक मोहम्मद जैसी याद आया मैंने मलिक मोहम्मद जैसी मेरी माँ जो थी ना I come from very traditional in the sense I come from a family of artists I come from a family of poets in fact तो मेरी माँ जो थी वो शायद 50 साल की उम्र में मास्टर्स, थर्ड मास्टर कर रही थी हिंदी साइड में। तो उनको पढ़ाने के लिए एक प्रोफेसर आते थे घर में, तो मैं दूसरे कमरे में पढ़ता था। वो उनको जायसी पढ़ाते थे, मैं समझता था बैठ के। और जब मैंने और वो मैं सुनाऊंगा आपको कि मेरी माँ और मेरे बीच में क्या डायलॉग हुआ हिंदी के पीछे, जिसकी वजह से मेरी ये दिलचस्पी बढ़ी। मैंने जायसी बड़े प्यार से सुनी और इतना मजा आया काम के। फिर जब खुद पढ़ी तो रस बिल्कुल ऐसा है ना बढ़ गया, क्योंकि इसे बचपन में प्लांट हो गई। तो हीरामन तोता राजा रतन सेन को पद्मावती के श्रृंगार का वर्णन कर रहा, ये मैं बचपन में सुनता हूँ। माँ को समझाते थे, मुझे बड़ा मजा आया। छोटा लेकिन जितनी समझ में आती थी, है ना। फिर वो तो हीरामन तोता is symbolic of the guru. Raja Ratan Sen, the symbolism as far as of the common man, is trying to enlighten Raja Ratan Sen, है ना, of the ultimate beauty of this beauteous कन्या called पद्मावती, है ना। जो ऐसी है, वो ऐसी है, उसकी सुंदरता ऐसी है, उसका नक्शी का वर्णन कर रहे हैं, नक्शी का वर्णन। फिर लास्ट में एक सेंटेंस आता है, वो थक जाता है तो कहता है, ओही सिंगार का वर्ण्य और राजा, ओही सिंगार ओही पे छा जाता है। उसके श्रृंगार का अब मैं क्या वर्णन करूं, बस इतना ही कह सकता हूं कि उसका श्रृंगार जो है ना, बस केवल उसी पे शोभित होता है। तो भाई काम वो है ना, और उसमें क्रिएटिविटी और सारी अंडरस्टैंडिंग का रोल ये है ना। आई थिंक आई अंडरस्टूड। नाउ कमिंग बैक टू रूप भेदा प्रमाण। रूप भेद in its appropriate proportion. रूप भेदा प्रमाणानि भाव कंटेंट। अगर कंटेंट नहीं है तो सारा एम्बेलिशमेंट नीरस है। शब्दावली तो वही है, वर्ड्स तो वही है, कभी पोइट्री बन जाती है। इस पे याद आया बायरन बहुत छोटे थे, तो बायरन को कहा गया एक कॉम्पिटिशन में पार्टिसिपेट करने, in which the topic to be written was wine. बायरन ने एक लाइन लिखी और वापस आ गए। लोग लिखे जा रहे थे पेज पे पेज पे पेज पे पेज। बायरन ने क्या लिखा? Saw thee and blushed. And he won. So it's not the amount of things or ingredients that you think you wish to utilize to enrich what you wish to say, but it is the purity of this translation that may happen from mind to and publish the same thing. I think I managed to say रूप भेदाः प्रमाणानि भाव content. Another Zen story. Here was this young British academic painter. Someone who can paint realistically just the way the eye sees. The eye sees and the mind experiences. मैं तो बहुत जोक करके बोलता हूँ कि यार एक बार बताओ, तुमने आजकल तो सारे फूड क्रिटिक फूड क्यूरेटर भी होते हैं, तो यार फूड को डिस्क्राइब तो कर ही नहीं पाते शब्द में, एक्सेप्ट ये बोलते हैं बहुत अच्छा है, बड़ा टेस्टी है। Can you describe that taste? describe तो वही कर सकता है जिसने वो कटल चीज को समझे। इसके पास वो शब्दावली हो तो उस aesthetical order को decipher करके पेश करते हैं. So he was this young British academic painter who wanted to learn Oriental art. So he went to this great Oriental master and showed his method. Now, Oriental, which is experiential, which comes in essence of life, which is not replication of reality, which is more replication of the experienced reality. Because it shows in his work. Master looks at the work. It is interesting. It agitates his more. He says, Master, I came here to understand the Oriental art, the experiential essence of matter and spirit. Now, when I use the word experiential, what's the difference? You're asking the doctor. Tell him that I said this. What's the difference between a living man and a dead man? Life. Can you catch it? Can you hold it? Or can you experience it? The difference between a dead man and a living man is the experiential aspect rather than the physically dead. Everything is dead except life. So it's the pulsating livingness of matter which is experiential, which is the real true, ingredient for me, for making it whatever it was. So he goes, the master doesn't respond. This obviously agitates this young boy. Master, say something. What do I do? Where do I start? So the master said, go out. Experience nature and paint the first living thing that you can see. I repeat, and paint the first living thing that you can see. Does it mean see or experience? And then come back. He goes back to old times. Just outside the master's house, he sees a sow, a female creature, sleeping. First living thing. I got it! He has asked me to paint the first living thing, so that is what it is. He sits down and makes a good academic, realistic study of the sow sleeping in her environment and rushes back to the master. Master, I found it! See? Doesn't this sow look like the sow? Sleeping in that? Master doesn't respond. Master, say something. You're not saying anything. You're talking in absolute abstract. First living thing. You said first living thing. It was a sow. She was sleeping outside your house. This means what? If you know what you want to find, you find it everywhere. If you don't know what you're finding, you can't find it. It's there. Number one. Master said, you're an ass. Doesn't this image look like exactly what you saw? Master said, my dear, I asked you to paint the first living thing that you saw. Fine. It was the sow. She was sleeping. Your sow is dead. Where is the quality of breath? The livingness of matter. So this means what? If your writing, your poetry, your art, your creation is unable to capture that pulsating aspect of life that truly makes it living or dead, is it worthless or worth? It's only worth if you are able to chase that. And mind you, not anything and everything only get a glimpse of it sometimes. Otherwise it becomes coming back to another story. My wife is Japanese, tremendously interested in classical music. Sings, not because she's my wife, but I consider her as one of her most well-informed Japanese or Indian culture in this country. वो विष्णु दत्त गाती है, वो क्या नाम है, सुबह गाती है. Can someone remind me what I said the last statement? Not about my wife.
You said another story and then you mentioned your wife.
And Subbalakshmi, MS
Yeah,
Subbalakshmi.
We ended with a big story and then you said another story. Then we went to wife.
It ended with?
You told us the story of a sow and then you said you're going to tell us another story.
Okay. Let's come back. Let's flow. Let's flow with that. So, Rupa Veda Pramanani Bhav contains. Bhav, essential for stating that. If you are able to capture it, then you are able to put its essence. Yojana, the putting together of all this. Assimilation. My biggest example for that is the Indian country. Matra, proportion. The yojana, the putting the essence of it into it. Now, there is another very, very interesting question of Rupa Veda Pramanani Bhava Lavanya Yojanam Sadrishya Varnika Punge Iti Chitram Sharanam. Now, it's a question of sadrishya. Sadrishya. If you translate it, it means likeness. But likeness to what? Likeness to physicality? Or likeness to the experienced reality? So likeness to the experienced reality. This means what? That creation has to match what truly is experienced as part of your essence of everything that you have assimilated. Sadrishya, Vardika Bhumi. Vardika Bhumi means the appropriate usage of the medium. Now, unfortunately, after time we realize, because of the usage of a particular medium, we attribute the greatness of it. And it's a sample dress, it's all gold. And damn it, if it's all gold from top to bottom, it's most ugly. There has to be a respite between proportions. So don't you think that this is the most outstanding statement ever written in the context of aesthetical experiential ethos, which governs the true experience of I got it. Now, I'm sure you know the name of Picasso. And you know the name of this very well-known thinker called Sir Herbert Reed. Now, Sir Herbert Reed, because it is education, therefore I thought I would mention this. Let's come back. Maybe there's another story which hasn't come back. It will come back on its own. It has to come back on its own. So, Sir Herbert Reed mounted the first most important exhibition of child art. Why? You see, in those years, child art, prehistoric art, primitive art, were all considered to be those forms of art which are considered to be redundant. अच्छा बच्चों child art वो तो मैं ही कर सकता हूँ नहीं कर सकते. Prehistoric art is what can only be done by the prehistoric man as a commitment to his requirement rather than it's not the creation. So Herbert Reed mounted this took that in the work and he was completely, completely engrossed in the work. And Sir Howard went and nudged Picasso and asked him, what do you think of that? And Picasso came up with a brilliant answer. He said, I could paint like Raphael when I was a child. Which could. And I went back to a small museum devoted to the early part of his work, especially to see this in Spain. I could paint like Raphael when I was a child, but it took me a whole lifetime to paint like that. It's that freshness, it's that unique vitality that attacks us. Should our educational system try to rejuvenate or rekindle or revitalize that spirit, or try to bind it and ensure that it is compartmentalized is a question